Verbal Riot.
This news came out this week as well, and if I'm being honest, I'm not even surprised. So here we have it, guys. The MCU has made an announcement that Blade is not going to happen. They said that it is kind of, I guess, delayed indefinitely, which means it's canceled. Let me just pull that up. Yeah, so on discussing film, they had an article that talked about that Blade is not going to happen. And it's not a surprise, like I said, but it's also kind of just stupid to me at this point because I don't get how it's this hard. How is it this hard to write a movie about a vampire hunter? Especially when you literally just had Deadpool and Wolverine be the biggest movie of the year, and partly because of Blade or Wesley Snipes' cameo as Blade in the film. How do you not take that momentum, right, and run with it? They should be running with this, and they can't seem to make it work. I think they've been through 3 directors already, and from what I gathered from Mahershala Ali, who was supposed to play Blade, what I gathered from his people was they are even confused because they have been waiting patiently to make this happen. And I think, honestly, guys, they've been talking about Blade for the past like 5 or 6 years. And Mahershala Ali is not a young guy. He's not young. He's not that much younger than Wesley Snipes, if I'm being honest with you. He might only be a few years younger than Wesley Snipes, so he's not young. And at this point, yeah, you might as well just call it quits. Move on to another project because they can't seem to make this work. I can write a Blade script in my sleep that would be congruent with the rest of the MCU as it stands now, while at the same time being its own standalone film, and it would kick ass. I could do that in my sleep. I there's honestly, and I'm not even saying that just to be, just to boast or to what. I know I could write that script, but they would never hire someone like me because I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I know the lore. I know the characters, and apparently that is something that the MCU does not want in their writers. Wrap your minds around that. They don't want people who know the lore, the characters, the story. They don't want those people like me. They want people who have never heard of Blade to write a Blade movie. You know, we've talked a lot on Film Threat, on Versus about the MCU cleaning up their act and trying to get back on board. And I get it, man. Trying to get out of this state of where entertainment is right now is hard. It's hard for a lot of companies, man. Not just studios, but for gaming companies. Guys, most companies are tired of this DEI shit. They're really tired of it because they're not making money. But they are all being strong armed into doing this. And those companies that are strong arming them, they're not going to just let go that easy. They're going to find a way to keep their hold on these companies. Now, Lucasfilm, on the other hand, they embrace these companies with open arms. But I know there's a lot of companies trying to get away from these people, and they just can't. Or it's going to take a lot more time and maybe a lot more losses before they can finally shake them, man. But it, I feel like the MCU is in a very scary place because I feel like at this point now, yeah, they had one hit. They had one hit with Deadpool and Wolverine. They've had a lot more misses than that. So I'm predicting that honestly, if the Fantastic Four doesn't do well, that's it. That's it. It doesn't even matter about Secret Wars. I think if Fantastic Four fails, they can call it quits. Because I think at that point, it's not even going to matter what happens in Secret War. Now, sure, people are going to want to see it because Robert Downey Jr. is back and they're banking on it. But I feel like if they don't switch this up soon, for a lot of people, Secret Wars is going to be an easy way out of all of this MCU stuff. A lot of people are going to just tie it up in a big bow and say, you know what, it was a good run. I'm done. And you guys have to understand, before we even get to Fantastic Four, we still got more shit to get through. Like we still have Ironheart, the Thunderbolts, right? We still have a lot of garbage to sift through before we even get to the Fantastic Four. So I honestly don't know how this is going to work. I Blade should have been a home run. It should have been a home run for them. And there was such an easy way to do it. And it was such an easy way not just to do Blade, but to tie him into Doctor Strange, to tie him into Ghost Rider, like to build this, yeah, this horror verse within the MCU, like they have in the comics. You know, Gary and Chris talked about it the other day, but they were talking about Midnight Suns. I had that first issue. I had that first run of Midnight Suns, and it was a great book. You know, the MCU could have had that part of the MCU that focus on the monsters, the supernatural, you know, the weird. You know, they did a great job last year with Werewolf by Night. I think Werewolf by Night might be, at least in recent Marvel years, one of my favorite things that they've done. I'm a big fan of Man Thing, and to see him on screen, that was wild, man. That was wild, and it was cool. And that's what I'm talking about, man. Like, if they just focused a little bit more on the actual fans of the comics while keeping normies in mind, they wouldn't even be in the problem. They wouldn't even be in the situation they're in right now. But for some reason, all these companies just thought that they could s- screw over the people who help keep them in business. And that applies to Star Wars. Guys, you understand Star Wars after Return of the Jedi, Star Wars was dead. At least cinematically, it was dead. And honestly, it didn't pick up in comics till way later. Yeah, you had those books, Heir to the Empire and all that, but those books weren't that big back then. You know what I mean? Like they were big amongst hardcore fans. Most normies didn't even know those books existed. But from Return of the Jedi to the Phantom Menace, right? That's about, I want to say 20 years, guys, of nothing. We kept Star Wars alive. We bought the action figures, the t-shirts, right? We with the lunch pails. We bought the merch. We kept Star Wars thriving until they can get to another film. Eh, So for them to say that we don't matter, they deserve all the failure that they have right now. And maybe Marvel has learned their lesson, and maybe they realize this, but a lot of damage has been done, man. A lot of damage has been done, and I really don't know if they're going to recover. I don't really know. That's the thing. Fantastic Four, from what I've seen, looks good. It looks good from what I've seen. How it's really going to play out, I don't know. And believe it or not, I'm rooting for the Fantastic Four. I want there just to be one solid Fantastic Four film. Now, a lot of people say that the Fox FF films were great. They were okay. The first one, anyway. Rise of the Silver Surfer was some bullshit. I'm sorry, it just was. But the first one was fine. It was fine. But I want a definitive Fantastic Four film. and we haven't gotten that yet. I want a definitive Doom, right? A definitive Doctor Doom. Is that going to be Robert Downey Jr.? I don't know. I don't know, man. I still hate that decision. I hate that choice. But if anyone, I guess, could pull it off, it's him. And he is one of my favorite actors of all time. So we'll see. But man, I really hate the fact that they couldn't make Blade happen. I really do, man. I'm a big fan of Blade, not just the movies, but the comics. I loved all his cameos and all the animated stuff. I he deserves better. That character deserves a lot better than what the MCU has given him. So hopefully at some point we'll get Blade at least as a cameo in an MCU film.